Hey people, something happened again today that blew my mind. This is Thoth and Sechet. And so Thoth is, by the Freemasons consider Thoth the master architect of the universe and the master mason. What's going on here is he's laying out the story pole. This is what a mason would call a story pole here. This is a story pole, it's just a 2x4. And the master mason, he'll start the job, he'll look at the building and take some measurements and see where the door headers are going, where the window sills are going. And he'll figure it up and lay this story pole out so to get a better look and to get less cuts. All these bricks, they come out of an oven and they're not exactly the same size. And so they'll pull a string between these marks on these two story poles and hold the top edge of that brick to the string, and it gives you a better looking product. It doesn't look sloppy. And so you just hold that top edge of that brick to that string and it'll give you a straight line across there. And so if you have a big long straight wall, over 50 foot, that string is going to sag a little bit, so you might just raise it up an 1/8 inch in the middle to compensate for the sag. And this explains a lot here. There are 4,800 marks on the standard carpenter's tape, and a good story pole gets rid of the ones you don't need. He's just setting the marks where the top of that brick's going to be. He doesn't care about the rest of the marks. The people out there stacking those bricks up, they don't even have to read the tape measure. Just the master's only one that needs to know how. And he sets up the story pole, and you have 5 masons slapping bricks to the line. They can move their chalk up the board. And so he'll do this figuring, around the doors and windows. He'll figure up where he's got the mortar joint can change. It doesn't. There's not a standard mortar joint. The bricks are different. They're all a little 1/8 inch different or so. And so you're just holding the top line. And so he'll go to the corners, and first he'll get a true mark. He'll shoot a level mark on all the corners. And then all the marks, they'll put these boards all side by side and mark them all out the same. And so that's what's going on. You got Tawt and Sechet, and they're laying out the story. And so you start here at the true mark. And so, like I said, this is the level line around. This is the level. This is where everything's going to start at. And so what you're looking at here is a tadpole and a row. And so it makes me think that this tadpole was used as the letter T. R-U, the true. You start at the true mark. So a tadpole represents new beginnings, or the beginning of a journey. You can see it in this gardener sign list. They say it means 100,000. And that's because that frog's laying 100,000 eggs. There's 100,000 new beginnings. And this other sign underneath it, this is the sign of row. They confuse it with a cartouche, and they really have no idea how to read this. They read everything backwards. They're reading from the top down, and everybody can see it's a mason working. A mason starts here at the row, at the beginning of the journey, at the tadpole, and works up the story pole. And so that's why all the names are impossible to pronounce when you hear the Egyptologists read this, and the stories are so crazy. It's because they're reading it all backwards. But this is a more ancient sign of the row, and it represents an oar lock. It can be done like this. It can be connected to the oar, with the loop going around a pole. But this is what it represents, is this oar lock. And so this is a row, and you might have 2 rowers in this row. You might have 2 sets of hands on this oar. It's called an oar lock, and that's because they're reading that part of the word backwards. It's a row lock, a row for rowing. It's this row lock here on the side of the boat. And it's the first thing you learn on the first day. And said from Yale, Yeha row. It starts with an A and it reads backwards, R-U-A, the row. Yeha row, to wage, and then backwards and forwards after this tack. The rower. The row to wage the rower. Where from yell to row the oar. Backwards and forwards. Row the oar. To give in with of. To give B-N W-T-H. With U-V. In with of. Who victual. Who fill. You eat your victuals to fill. To victual. And so you start the journey with a true mark. This was worldwide. They call it the rod and ring. They believe that it's a stick and a measuring string. You can see it again here. It appears to look like it goes here. But it comes from this more ancient language here. It's called the row. And you often see it with the crotch of Isis. This is a plant coming out the ground, throwing a leaf each side. It's a crotch, and it used to be called the gur. It's a form of chi, which is now our X, and so the chi row is now our XR, chi row, but it used to be pronounced the grow. That's where everything grows from, the crotch of Isis. This is the crotch of Isis, and the row, to grow. And so when you're laying brick, this is the row that goes this way. And this is the true beginning, your level line to start your rows. And your rows would count up. The first row's at the bottom, and the rows count up. So Thoth is the origin of our word deity. You can see here the Egyptian pronunciation of deity is not fully known, but may be reconstructed. And so it's coming from here. This is the TY, and they say this is the U and the H. And so they're not sure if this is the TU or the THUTY, T. He's got a bunch of different names. Or is this the D? The D, and the Greeks turn the H into the E, the D-E-U-T-Y, deity. So deity is known for the god of writing, and he created the universe. There was only 360 days in the year, and Nut was sterile for 360 days, and so Thoth had gambled. He played some poker with the moon for 1/72 of its light. And that's how we got 5 more days. It was during those 5 days, Nut was cursed to be sterile for 360 days. And so it was during those 5 days that Nut was able to give birth. And that's when came Osiris, Set, Iphis, and Nephis. But Thoth is one self-begotten. And he's credited the author of all works of science, religion, philosophy, and magic. And Greeks further declared him the inventor of astronomy, astrology, science of numbers, mathematics, geometry, surveying, medicine, botany, theology, civilized government, the alphabet, reading, writing, oratory, and further claimed he was the true author of every work of every branch of knowledge, human and divine. But everybody saw him as the god of wisdom and writing, hieroglyphs, hiero, the sacred writings. That's the same place where your word Jerusalem comes from, the hiero, the sacred alum, science, magic, art, judgment. And so this is where our word deity come from, and came to mean a god or a goddess. It's a generic term for a god. And so they're saying, that they're all a part of Thoth. He wears many hats. And so what brought me here, I was reading in Revelation 17, and it's talking about the Graffiti and the things that are written is, and so I knew that GE means to lift, and I wasn't too sure if they were saying gravity or graffiti. It seems like graffiti when they saying, it's written. And so I looked into this more everywhere it came up 67 times. Because I know there's many other words they say are the writings. And sometimes it's the graph with a Q. Like I said, this is a PT. This one's a Q, which is a PH to the graph. And sometimes it's the psi. And they have many different ways of spelling it. And so I was reading everywhere where this graffiti come up to make sure I could get this word nailed down better. And so sometimes it's the utus jar, lift the graffiti. Utus, that's the word for the Eye of Ra. Utus is the Greek name for the Eye of Ra. And sometimes it's the apocryphes they pen. And sometimes it's the see what's on according to lift the graffiti. And you find many times it's with the Jesus Paul in lift the graffiti. And these would be red letter phrases that come after it. And sometimes it's Perry who, around who lift the graffiti. And several times it's Tawt, T-A-U-T-H, Toth it what. And this reads backwards, the Toth it what lift the graffiti. And a lot of these cathos lift the graffiti. But you can see it here again, just T-A-U-T-H, Toth, at to make lift the graffiti. And here in John, it's taught to, T-A-U-T-A, taught to the D, lift the G graffiti, lift the graffiti. And so G is, is either lift or carry, to carry the graffiti, to carry the writings. And then I got down here to Peter, and it's deity, D-I-O-T-I, deity, to lift the graffiti. And so just like all the other words that are ancient words for gods, they'll give them no meaning, like Allah. They'll always say they just mean but or because. They give them no meaning. But it's the deity, a G, to lift the graffiti. And then this wasn't in the original. And this one reads backwards, the joy go. The G is the foot, to lift knowledge. The joy to lift knowledge, the joy go. And so this is you shall be. This isn't with it. This is the cest, and it comes from cest, means the family. Your ancestors, or the upcestors, the ones that was before, and incest, is in the family, and so that's the cest. And the deity to lift the graffiti, and he's quoting. So every time you see this graffiti, all them old books I read, they often have quotes from ancient Greek and Latin, and so these quotes aren't always in the same language that the rest of it's written in. And they read this as act joy, the cest, the holy, the family, at Tygo, Agios. And so, like I say, this one reads backwards. This mark on this uppercase letter needs to read this backwards. The joy go, to lift the family. And this is Atigo, and it's just Atigo is a cover or protective, a roof, protection over. And the joy go, the family, Atigo, a protection over, a Gaios. And so Gaios is a son, a male child. The deity lift the graffiti, lift the writings, carry the writings. Joy go the cest, Atigo, the protection of the son, a Gaios, a son. So what blew my mind, I was reading this last night, and so I went to everywhere, deity was. And this is only going to tell me where to find it in the New Testament. It's 23 times. And so I read all of them with the deity to get a better idea. And I was really wanting to see it in the Old Testament. And so I clicked on my Facebook this morning, and bam, I just happened to post this last year where it says, the America, as she said, Shirley, America. This is their pronunciation of this. And then if you look opposite, this is in Genesis 29:32. and opposite these words in the Greek is going to be the Lego USA deity. The Lego USA deity. And they'll still say it just means because. But what blows my mind, you know, this happens to me all the time, and it's usually exactly a year ago. But this is on this. I posted this on the 18th, on July 18th. But this is the 21st that I'm doing this, I believe. And for some reason they waited. This one time they waited 3 days until I was reading this before it came up. That's what blows my mind. So these are ancient Legos. These are a wall, and I know they're a wall because I can see the big letter H in here. And the letter H is an ancient word that means to divide. It means a wall. But this would be found down in South America. But you see it often, you know, the deity to the Gnoston. G-N-O is knowledge. The Gnoston, the Gnostic. The deity of the G-N-O, the knowing it's, know on it's. And they'll say it's because having known. So maybe that's what deity means, is because. And the because, having known that this was what I was working on, brought this memory up on this day. So I found this cool poem. It's some true Shakespeare. What I was doing this, I was wanting to read this. It's about 5-6 lines maybe. It's gonna be too long, so I'm gonna put it in another one. I'm gonna cut this off here. Good day.